guys, it's Liz here, and today I'm going to do a video on my basic dip application from start to finish with a few tips and tricks along the way. So the first thing is to start with good prep. This will prevent any lifting of your nail enhancements. So to do this, you want to remove your invisible cuticle, any dirt and oils, or moisture from your nails. The way that I like to remove my invisible cuticle is using Blue Cross Cuticle Remover. This cuticle remover can be a little bit harsh on your skin, so I put a little Vaseline around my nail on the skin to protect my skin. Then I'll use my Cuticle Pusher to gently push back my proximal fold and scrape off any cuticle that is on my nail. This is just a quick overview of how I remove my cuticles. If you would like a more in-depth video, you can find it in the cards. The next step in my process is to use alcohol to remove the oil and dirt from my hands and nails. I don't like to wash my hands right before because then the water soaks into your nails and you're trying to dehydrate your nails because the enhancements don't like to stick to moisture, dirt, or oils. If I do have to wash my hands before I do a nail enhancement, then I try to wait a little while before I actually do the nail enhancement, like at least 30 minutes. Next, I like to use a dehydrator for my nails. I have extra oily nail beds, so this extra step helps to make sure that all of that moisture is off of my nails. I have also noticed a big difference and the improvement of any lifting of my nail enhancements since I started dehydrating my nails. I do want to mention that I'm just doing a refill here, so I'm just dehydrating the natural, where my natural nail is showing. But you want to make sure that you dehydrate all of your natural nail. Dehydrating is only temporary as well, so make sure that after you dehydrate and let it dry, that you move quickly into dipping. When dipping, I recommend at least 4 dips to prevent chipping. I also recommend dipping in clear first because clear adheres better to your natural nail, 2 dips of color, and then a clear to encapsulate that color. Not all colors need to be encapsulated, but I do it just in case. All dip kits come with 4 basic steps. It will be numbered or labeled differently based on what kit you buy, but these are the 4 basic steps. You're going to start with your base coat, then you're going to dip in your powder, wait for that to dry, dust it off, and then repeat the base coat and dipping powder steps. After you're done with the dip, then you're going to activate or seal and protect, file and buff, activate again, and then finish with your top coat or finish gel. Some kits may also include a bonder and brush saver. A bonder is not necessary, but if you would like to use it, you will do this as part of your prep after dehydrating. I didn't think the bonder really worked for me, so I don't recommend it. Also, some of them come with a brush saver, which you would just use by either swapping out the brushes if your brush becomes clumpy or hardened, or you can put it in at the end of the dipping process to make sure that it is good to go for your next dipping. As I mentioned before, I do recommend dipping in clear as your first dip. I use a builder gel and I build up my apex, which I have videos for that if you're interested in that. But for this video, we are just going to stick with basic dipping. So to begin, you want to loosen up the powder. So if you're leaving it in the jar, you can just kind of roll it around like you saw me doing there, or you can dump it out into a cupcake liner. Dumping it out into a cupcake liner works best for glitter so that you get an even coating when you dip. I also like to have one of these lint-free wipes ready to wipe my brush on so that I don't get any contaminants or dip powder back into my bottle. So once you're ready to go, then you want to get a small amount of base on your brush. You don't want to have any beads of liquid, just enough to coat your entire nail. Then you're going to start a little ways away from your proximal fold and push your brush towards your proximal fold, just getting a hairline away from your skin. You're going to do that to your entire nail and then dip your nail into the powder. There's different ways to do this. You can either scoop the powder out like I'm showing you here and kind of dust it onto your nail, making sure that you get powder on the entire nail. This is the more sanitary method if you're planning on using your dip powders for multiple people, but you do need a slow drying liquid to make sure that you cover it completely. Then you want to tap off the extra powder and quickly clean up your cuticle area. You can use any sharp tool. This is a metal ceramic tool that I'm using here. You can also use a toothpick or an orange wood stick, anything with a sharp point to it. If you are the only one using your powder, feel free to dip straight into the powder like you see me doing here. You just want to make sure that you loosen up the powder before you do that, or you will get lumps and clumps on your nail. You can also pour over like you see me doing here. What I like to do is just take the jar, tilt it a little bit, and then just lightly tap it on like you see me doing here. I usually use this method when I'm dipping because it's quick, it's more sanitary, and you don't need any other tools to do it. After you let it dry, usually I can do all of my nails and then come back to the first nail that I did and it's ready to be dusted off. I like to use a stiff brush because it creates very thin layers. But you can use one of these fluffy brushes, but as you can see here, I did have some product buildup that I just had to cut off because I couldn't get it off. So you're just going to take your stiff brush and brush all of the powder off, and then you are ready for your next dip. So as you can see, I did miss a few spots, but that's okay. Again, this is why I recommend at least 2 dips of color. That way you can get all of those spots that you missed on the first round. It also creates a much deeper, richer color. So I'm going to use the same process. Again, you want to make sure that every time before you put your brush back into the bottle, that you wipe it on the lint-free cloth. That way none of the powders get back into your bottle, because this can contaminate your liquids and then your base will not work properly. Another technique of dipping is to lay flat. So you can do this straight into the jar like you see me doing here, or you can do that into a cupcake liner like you see me doing here. This method is best to use when you are using glitters. You can give them a little shake like that to get the glitters to the top, and then lay your finger flat into the glitter to get an even coating of those glitters. This is also the best method to use for chunky glitters. Then you want to clean up your cuticles quickly, and then I will use a little baggie or a piece of baggie to push those glitters down so that they're laying flat. This is the reason why you need to have a slow drying liquid, to make sure that you have time to do all of these steps when you're dipping. If you do get any lumps or bumps during dipping, don't worry about it. You can fix that when you're filing and buffing, or do another dip. This one, I accidentally hit it while I was dipping my other nail. So to fix it, I'm just putting a little base where I have the bald spots and dipping it in to fix it. I only did 1 dip of glitter with this dip because it covered so well. So when I did encapsulate and clear, I did 2 dips of the clear. So like I've mentioned before, not all colors need to be encapsulated, but this just helps to protect any color from being buffed too aggressively, because some of them will create white spots if you buff them too much. You'll also notice that I'm using my tool to pour it on so that my clear does not get contaminated from dipping into it. You can also pour it into a cupcake liner and dip it in that way. So after it is dry, you want to brush that off, and then you are ready to activate. So I activate twice. I activate once going in one direction, and then I will activate again going in the opposite direction, just to make sure that it is fully activated. Then you're going to wait for that to dry completely, and you can test by tapping on your nail. It will make that sound, and then you know you are ready to file. I start with a 100-180 file, straight file for the sides of my nail and the edge of my nail. This helps to create a very straight side and will take down that powder really quickly if I have any big lumps or bumps. While I'm doing this, I'm looking at my finger at every angle to make sure that I get the angles the way that I want them. After I do that, I want to clean up my cuticle a little bit more, getting any powder that I might have missed whenever I cleaned up with a toothpick or that ceramic tool. This is done really easily with one of these ergo files like you see me using there. This beautiful ergo file is by Sparkle Infusion, and you can get it for 20% off of their website by using the code 20OFFNailNerd. I'll link that in the description if you're interested in that. So the next thing that you want to do is work on the curve of your nail, and you want it to be a slow curve down to your skin from both sides. So I'm having trouble with it focusing right here, but you can kind of see how it's kind of a bump on the left there a little bit. So I'm going to take my file. This is still the 100/180, and I'm going to try and take off as much of that at this angle as I can to get that side at a gradual slope down to the side of my finger. So you also want it as a gradual slope from the front to the back as well. You'll see that I have a lot of bulk in the back right there towards my skin, so I want to take some of that bulk out. To do this without hurting your skin, these buffer blocks work really well. They have a foam side that you can put up against your skin. This is a 100/180 block from Hangry Dips, and it works really well to keep your skin safe. So another way that you can do this is by taking the grit off of the side of your nail file by rubbing it up against another file. Once you get it filed the way that you want, then you want to buff out any deep ridges or grooves that you made with your file. This is a 280 grit buffer block, again from Hangry Dips. I also will take a crystal file to clean up any areas that I have around my nail that need to be cleaned up. This little point at the end works really well for getting into those tight spots. After you get it filed and cleaned, then you're going to activate again a second time. If you find after you activate that there's something else that you need to file, you can file again, but you just will have to reactivate after that. So this is what my finished nail looks like. You can see that it is gradual slope from each side as well as to the front and back. So after you activate, you want to wait for it to dry. Some kits will tell you to wait up to 2 minutes. Some you don't need hardly any drying time at all. But most of them I would suggest you wait for 2 minutes, and then I like to wipe it with an alcohol wipe just to get all of the dust off. Then I will wipe it with a lint-free cloth to make sure that the alcohol is all off and completely dry. And then I'm going to start with my top coat. For the first layer of top coat, you want it to be a very quick layer of top coat. And I always wipe mine on a lint-free cloth before dipping back into the bottle to make sure that I'm not contaminating my top coat with any activator or alcohol. Once that layer is dry, it will get this rough look like you see here, and then you know you are ready for your second layer of top coat. So for this layer, you can take your time making sure that you get everything covered. This makes sure that your color is completely protected by this top coat. You also want to cap your free edge like you see me doing here. That will help prevent against lifting at that free edge. Once you're done with your top coat, you want to make sure that you give it time to dry, usually about 2 to 5 minutes. Then you can kind of test it by tapping the side like you see me doing here. Then I always finish my mani with a good cuticle oil to put some of the moisture back into my nails. So that's going to be about all for this video. If you have any questions or comments, make sure that you leave them below. Feel free to look me up on any of my other social media platforms. You will find that really far down into the description. If you liked this video, make sure that you give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and feel free to share this video with anybody that might need it. Thank you so much for watching and supporting me, and I will see you next time.